Time management has been a kind of a buzzword. Uh, I think for last almost 3, 4 decades, and I think before pandemic struck us, the usual statements or usual things that I would get to hear, even in my clinic, commuting, that I get tired. I don't feel enthusiastic about doing something because I'm already exhausted with that. Then most of the times kids or teenagers would complain to me about their parents saying that they belong to a different time zone. They don't understand us. So how to spend quality time? Our parents would complain that our teenagers don't have time to talk to us. They are busy in their own world. They are in their own zone. So this time was and time management was something that was coming across every now and then in various forms and various expressions. But I would like to really talk about this time and time management. What is it actually? What do we mean by that? Because as I said before, pandemic struck us. The usual thing was I don't find time. I don't get time. Okay, and yes, that was partly true because a lot of time was spent in commuting, a lot of time was spent in socializing, and a lot of things that we were doing. Maybe shopping, maybe for essentials, but still. So we required that time for daily chores and commuting. Okay. And that time people said that fine, we don't find time. And because these were the daily chores which consumed our time. But when pandemic struck us with the lockdown, suddenly there was a lot of time at hand. There was no time spent in commuting. There was no time spent in socialization. There was no time spent in shopping or anything. So suddenly we had a lot of time in our hand. So actually, it was a ready-made solution available to us who were constantly complaining of not having time. Okay. But then what is our observation? That though we have so much of time at hand, even now, because of certain restrictions, even today, we have a lot of time in our hand. Then has it changed qualitatively certain things? Has it changed relationships in a positive manner because people are able to spend time with each other? Because they always complain that we don't find time to spend with each other, especially even when it came to couples. That was a common complaint I could get to hear. So, have people become more productive with the availability of time? Then, unfortunately, the observation is no. Have the relationships qualitatively increased a lot because of a lot of time at hand and being able to spend that time together? No. Actually, people started describing that as that all of us are confined in that place, in those four walls, and that's really encroaching on our space. And so there have been fights, there have been distressed relationships. And I also work in the social field. So even the cases of domestic violence, people found, or the social workers found, noticed that those cases were on the rise, which means all the time we were blaming unavailability of time, and now there is a lot of time, but yet the problems have increased in some areas, and I don't think that the productivity and the quality of relationships has increased, which means there is something fundamentally missing when we think about time management. Actually, not having time was a real truth for our grandparents and great grandparents. I was thinking in the morning that what was like, was it true any time in the history? Then I realized that yes, for our grandparents, great grandparents, definitely my great grandparents, it was a fact because everything had to be done manually, right from fetching water from the river or from the well to washing clothes to grinding the flour. Everything had to be done manually. So actually, those were the people who really did not have time. And after that, we got the technology, the machines, and everything. So actually, now we have a lot of time in our hand, and yet we are complaining about not having enough time. Okay. So I think this is something that we need to understand, that time time management is never about unavailability of time. It is always about how you manage your available time in an effective manner. So that is one thing which I would like to uh, clarify or state about. So because with the new normal also, unless and until we understand this time management concept very clearly, then only it is possible to manage it effectively. Now we know that time management is about effective use of time. Okay, there are two things which we need to know now. Okay, one is that when we take out time to do something, okay, when we spend time in doing something, that time is withdrawn from something. So time spent on something is time withdrawn from something, because the mathematics is clear. Every day it's going to be 24 hours. So when we spend 4 hours on something, those 4 hours are taken away from something. That is for sure. So that is something which we need to understand when it comes to time management. Second thing that we need to understand when it comes to time management. And third thing about teenagers or students, what is required is their time has to be divided into three categories in a more balanced manner, say 33%. If we consider 24 hours, then those components are: one is academics, two is sports and entertainment, and third is the sleep. So, academics, sports and entertainment, and sleep are the three components wherein teenagers need to divide their time very judiciously, I would say. It has to be a balanced, because what happens is, as I said, if we look at the second principle of time management, that time spent on something is time withdrawn from something. So if I spend more time in sports and entertainment now, then it is withdrawn more than necessary. If I spend that time into entertainment and sports, then it is withdrawn either from academics or sleep. Okay. Now, if it is withdrawn from the sleep and I use equal time for academics and more time for academics and more time for sports and entertainment, then the only factor left is sleep. Okay. Now, if I withdraw time from sleep, then as a teenager or as a student, for everyone, if anyone remains sleep deprived for a longer period of time, it impacts the fitness also, and it impacts the cognitive functioning of the brain also. So anyways, whenever there is a disequilibrium or whenever there is uneven distribution of time spent on all three factors, then that results into mismanaged time. Not only that, but also that it keeps on impacting each other. It's like these factors are so interdependent that one affects the other and the other impacts the other, and that's how the chain starts building up. So I think three things that we need to understand to really understand the context of time management. One is it is more about effective use of available time. Two, it is more about time spent on doing something is time withdrawn from something. And three, for students, for teenagers especially, three factors which require equal distribution of time: academics, sports and entertainment, and sleep. Again, I would always request the audience to keep these three things, the basic context of time management, in mind. And then we will talk about what are the factors that are required, or what are the factors which are responsible for not being able to manage the time effectively. Okay. Uh, One thing is not being able to prioritize things. Okay. Now, priority setting, I'll come to this point also when we would talk about procrastination. So, one is inability to prioritize the things. Okay. Uh, See, one thing that we need to understand that, like in dieting, whenever teenagers or students set the priorities, that is something which that is the conflict that they face. That there is something that they like to do, and there is something that they need to do, and there is a conflict about deciding between the need and what they want. And I think that is a journey towards adulthood. Children work on their wants, and adults are supposed to work on their needs and balance it with what they want. So I think if we look at teenagers, we always say in our parenting workshops also, or in our parenting courses also, that teenage is not an extension of childhood, but rather it's a pre-adulthood. So I think if teenagers look at themselves as in a stage of being a pre-adulthood, then I think they would be able to understand this more, that now they would really need to think about their need rather than what they want, and they always will now have to learn to balance between these things. Okay, so that is one thing that if that is missed out, then I think that results into mismanagement of time, and that is inability to prioritize. Okay. Second thing is very typical to teenage again, is starting up your day late, because teenagers sleep late. There is a lot of what I can say neuroscientific reason behind it. Let us not get into those details right now, but teenagers sleep late. They don't. They are not able to really sleep early in time. Okay. Then when they don't really fall asleep, what they do is they spend their time in front of the screen. That again increases the arousal level of the brain, and that results into their brain getting exhausted. Again, this has um, a lot of neuroscientific explanation to it, but right now, if we stick to our today's topic about time management, then let us not get into those details. Of course, those details will be available in our courses about parenting as well. But one thing is starting up the day late, because by the time they are really into their senses and are thinking about doing something, the world has already gone ahead. The surrounding has already gone ahead almost one third of the time, a productive time, and then people tend to miss out on a lot of things. So that is another factor responsible for mismanagement of time. Okay. Third thing is multitasking. Okay. There is nothing, actually, multitasking is a myth. Okay. When we say multitasking, it is about, actually, it is more about wanting to do a lot of things at the same time, not doing a lot of things. That again results into failure to are attractive and interesting, and a teenager wants to do it. But again, as I said, that balancing between what you want and what you need to do, and again having a lot of wants and desires to do a lot of things, results into failure to prioritize. So third thing is multitasking. Fourth factor which is responsible for unmanageability of the time is sometimes people tend to underestimate the time required for some tasks. Say, for example, there is something that they have on their schedule that they want to do these things, or maybe teenagers have decided to complete one topic from their physics or chemistry or some textbook. And then that topic is actually hard also, is larger also, and somehow they tend to underestimate the time required to complete that topic. Okay, that's a very simple and a trivial example that I'm giving, but just to understand that how we tend to underestimate. Fourth factor, or fifth factor, I would say. Fifth factor is failure to manage distractions. Again, we know that a lot of distractions are available at their fingertips on the screens. Then there is WhatsApp, there is social media, there are a lot of messages going on. And then there is a kind of an inner compulsion and almost an impulsive reaction to that situation, that there is a ping and I would really want to see what's there. Okay. So that is something which distracts people and especially the teenagers. And because of that, I think those distraction take a lot of time, because then every time your focus gets shifted, then to again gathering your focus and being able to really concentrate on doing something for which again you have calculated some time. That's where also they tend to underestimate the time required to do certain tasks, because then these are the distractions, and if not managed fairly, then that results into mismanagement of time. And the last and the most important is procrastination.